Welcome to the skytalkdoc podcast, where we navigate life, relationships, and everything in between with thought-provoking curiosity and a touch of grace. Buckle up, Buttercup. This is a flight you won't forget. Before we get into today's podcast and our amazing guest, I just want to tell you, you're not broken. You're just wired for survival in a world that doesn't always feel safe. Maybe you keep people at a distance because deep down you don't feel very lovable, or maybe you overachieve because a part of you believes you're not enough. But that's not weakness. It's your brain doing its best to protect an old wound. But here's the thing. What protected you then might be sabotaging you now. If you're tired of the same arguments, same spirals, or feeling unseen in your relationships, take the 7 Primal Wounds quiz at 7primalwounds.com to find out what your wound is and stop the same crappy patterns, chaos, and relationship conflict today. Good morning, Chris, and welcome to the Sky Talk Doc podcast. I am super excited to talk about something that has me completely perplexed, and I'm just really looking forward to understanding better the world of peptides, number one, and all of the other things that you're delving into. Could you share with the listeners who you are and how you got into this fascinating world?
Yeah, well, the story of how I got in there's a little interesting. I'll try to do it in an elevator pitch style. But my name's Chris Duffin. They call me the mad scientist of strength. But my background's actually in engineering. I've got a couple engineering degrees. I ran aerospace and automotive manufacturing companies for a couple decades. But in the course of that, I lifted a lot of weights. You can see some Guinness World Records behind me if anybody's watching this on video. But I was one of the strongest people in the world for a long time, and I was known for my advanced recovery methodologies. And first, I I started playing around with peptides like a long time ago, early 2000s, like 2003, I think. And there's a lot of people today when I say that, they're like, how'd you do that? They didn't even exist. I'm like, back up a moment. Like, let's talk about peptides. Peptides have been around. The first one that was synthesized, I think, was in 1926. It's called little thing called insulin. Right. So they've been around for a long, long time. And a peptide is, I mean, I can't remember how many tens of thousands we have like circulating in our body, but they're amino acids, an amino acid chain, which is similar to like a protein, except these are a little bit shorter. A peptide is typically 2 to 50 amino acid bonds versus a full amino acid sequence making a protein. And they're very different than, let's say, a drug. But that's why I didn't talk about these for a long time. So I started playing around with them in 2003. I got to be known for that kind of on the backside of the industry because I was a known strength coach and innovator in biomechanics.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I worked around with back pain. Anybody that's on can see a little snapshot of some teams behind me. I worked with nearly every major league professional team, 900 colleges. And this is all around the biomechanics side of things, how to recover from injury or prevent injury, which is also, interestingly, a signaling system.
Mm-hmm.
And that signaling system can be controlled by the peripheral inputs into our nervous system, which then affects the brain, which then affects muscle firing, which then affects, there's a lot of things. And I don't need to get into the science of that, but I made the best biomechanically sound barbells and equipment in the world that helped enhance that. And I was doing peptides behind it. And I didn't talk about those because there was a lot of misunderstanding and thinking that they were like steroids or drugs, and it being something that, was, not couth, not to be used. And that has changed a lot in this realm today. I think because of the advent of a lot of these weight loss drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are peptides, the Ozempic, the Wegovy, these are peptides as well. And what peptides do versus an exogenous drug is very different. So you've got things like in the performance enhancing realm, like growth hormone or testosterone, that is literally going in and replacing the body's natural production of an item. And that has you have to worry about its interactions with other compounds. You have to worry about reducing the output of your own body. And then you basically can't quit using it. So there's a lot of issues. There's toxicity levels. So peptides are unique because that structure, it's small. And that small structure allows for low accumulation. Low accumulation means low toxicity. So the safety profiles of many peptides are absolutely astounding. The other is it can penetrate cells much better than a drug because, again, that size allows it to permeate into a lot of the cell membranes and do things. And that's literally what it is doing, is sending a signal to the cell. So at a cellular level, it's telling the body what to do. So in the case of like testosterone or growth hormone, we can literally send a signal to the testes. We can send a signal to the hypothalamus and the ghrelin receptor to say, release your body's natural growth hormone. So one, we're doing that with low toxicity. We're doing it in a absolutely bioidentical fashion because we're just stimulating your body's own process. And if we remove the peptide, you don't have any other repercussions. In fact, it often restores the function of, let's say, the pituitary. If you've been under high level of stress, adrenal fatigue, whatever it is, it's going to help restore that. And as you come off, that production is now going to be better. So there's tons of applications, but it's like a text message. It's like, go in the house, open the window. Like, you've got to really understand, okay, we want to accomplish something. You might have to have multiple pathways to hit that. So some of the best ones out there that are becoming more commonplace are ones called BPC 157. That's body protective compound 157. It's derived in our gastric tract and helps repair that as well as other tissue in the body. Often that's combined with what's called TB 500. These are used for recovery of damaged tissue. And I think about it as like a house analogy. We've got a house that needs repaired or needs built. And so the best way to think about these compounds and understand them is BPC 157 is like the foreman at the site. And he's telling the workers, all right, here's where to go and here's where to put the materials. And that's literally what's happening in the cell. You've got substrate material coming in from your food, like, and it goes into your bloodstream. And then we've got those processes available, that material available. Where do we go? How do we put that together to start restoring that structure of that damaged cell? And then you've got TB 500, which would be like the architect. And I call it the architect because it has an effect on a protein called actin. And that's about 20% of every cell. And it helps create the structure, the 3D structure of that cell. So it's creating the blueprints for BPC 157 to follow. So they kind of stack on each other. BPC would be like fundamental. Then you can add the architect. And if you want to take it further, you could add a compound. And I believe I was the first one. I know I'm the first one ever documented to put this into recovery protocols that I've written. And now it was used primarily in the cosmetic realm. And a lot of if you get this in a mixture, and I swear this is coined by women, actually, they call it the glow compound now, but it creates this beautiful glow of your hair, skin, nails, like you're rejuvenating, but it's also rejuvenating not just collagen, but particularly the elastin, which is, as you age, creates that kind of fall in the skin. So it really helps with aesthetics. And it was in a lot of, just as a standalone, started in a lot of topical creams and things of that nature. But as an injectable, it has 4,000 different healing pathways, and it's the master craftsman. So
Well, it's interesting. So a couple of years ago, I was experiencing some, adrenal fatigue, just to cortisol spikes and stress. And I'm a hippie, and so I went to this naturopath that I've seen for a long time, and she started kind of talking about this, and then she mentioned needles, and I tuned out. Um, and I remember she was specifically talking about it as a focus for improving kind of the entire adrenal system. But the idea of sticking a needle, any kind of injection in my body was just not on my radar at all. And what's interesting is I do know a handful of women who, since then, this was years ago, that had started taking these, and their skin is great. Truthfully, like
yeah.
they don't have any minor wrinkles or anything. They don't take Botox, and it is pretty impressive. But fascinatingly enough, I've recently was in a car accident, and the car did a great job of holding my seatbelt, holding me in place, but it allowed my shoulder to move, which created a tear. And you're talking about how there's so many different ones that can be targeted for so many different things like muscle repair. And that's fascinating. And I guess I'm curious, were you using these peptides prior to the awards that you were winning? Or was it simultaneous? Did it happen afterwards as part of your recovery? Or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, I started exploring that way back for my personal use because I wanted to explore the potential of, like, I've always been interested in seeing what human potential is and my own potential and removing any roadblocks that can allow me to see what I'm truly capable of. So that has been a modality. And so when I said people knew I was an expert on recovery and would reach out to me on the back end of things for some of these protocols, like I did a lot of this in the biomechanics realm and with movement work. And I'm definitely like I'm known for that as an expertise. But I was doing that in adjunct. Getting the right joint centration and being able to send the right, signals with the right length tension relationship around a joint. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but also if we can enhance the signaling on the other end, massive. So I'll take an example. This is someone that allowed me to publish their protocol. This individual ripped off both quads, like tore them off the bone doing a lifting feat competing. This is major. Like surgery to reattach these, you're in a walker, you have to learn to walk again. Standard mode of care is being able to walk 2 miles at 6 months. At 2 years, 60% of people are still in pain or have stiffness or a combination of both. 50% never return to play. That is the standard considered. Like if we look at the literature of those type of injuries, the individual I worked with, now we did the movement work. We did some training facilitation that also signals some other things. I don't want to get too deep in, but we did some BFR training, some other ways to prime these receptors, which is what those peptides are hitting. In 10 weeks, this individual with this is from the hospital, surgery on both legs to reattach the quadriceps to the bone, have to learn to walk again. This whole process at 10 weeks, he was deadlifting 700 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
We're talking people. If I say this, if there's a medical person on, listen to this, they're like, he's lying. He's making that up. This is well documented. You can go online and look at it. It's all documented all the way through on social media. You can see the whole progression. And we shared everything that we did in this protocol. And this is not uncommon for me to be able to do this. I knew that I was going to be able to do this with this case. This individual allowed me to share that publicly, which was absolutely tremendous. Shortly thereafter, he competed and set a competition result that put him in the 0.00001% of the world population for strength. Shortly after that, we're talking a matter of weeks. This is literally impossible in our standard model of care.
Well, I find that fascinating because I've won a lot of longest drive competitions, and right now I can't even buckle my bra strap without help. I'm going on months of it. So I'm like, this is getting ridiculous, like I cannot believe in the pain. Oh my gosh, like I had no idea how much you use your shoulder for everything until you can't use your shoulder for everything. I mean, even just stupid stuff like going to pull something out of the oven or putting on a coat or whatever, washing your hair, I'm like, they have me doing this little exercise right now where I stretch a bungee and I put it to my nose and I can't do it the other way. Like I literally cannot get it close enough. So this is fascinating, but I always get a little, I hear these success stories, but I get freaked out about, is it a fad? I know people say, well, it's been around for 100 years since, the 1800s or whatever. Like, I'm just curious about that because I always get nervous about these kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using them for over 20 years and I've been using them with athletes. I've been mentoring doctors in the field because a lot of them may know the research, but they don't know like the real world applications. And that's where I come in. I'm not a biochemist. I'm not a medical professional. I don't pretend to be what I am, but I have a lot of experience and a lot of anecdotal evidence, and I am very systematic with things. Like that's what I'm known for with the background that I have. And I mean, that's my experience. I'm multiple design award winning, individual, lots of patents, all sorts of stuff. Like I get into the weeds and details. That's why I love doing that. So it is absolutely phenomenal what we can do with these. It is not a fad, particularly the healing side of it. And the big piece for people is the injections.
Mm-hmm.
But the injections, if you've ever done one, it becomes absolutely not a thing because you can literally don't even feel it. It's an insulin syringe. And that is where like the GLPs, I liken it back to like 2008 when no one was, you'd walk into a gym and people new to the gym would go straight to the cardio machine, be afraid of the weights. And now it's pretty common this day and age for people to go, I want to learn weights. I want to do some Olympic weightlifting or powerlifting or so on. That happened because CrossFit introduced that into the norm. The barbell all of a sudden became this thing that was okay. And I think that's what has happened with the Ozempic, the Wegovy's, the weight loss ones. It's like that needle doesn't mean I'm a drug user. This is just a normal thing. And once you've actually done one, it becomes like nothing. I mean, it's a little tiny needle that's the size of a hair that if you put it in, you basically don't even feel anything. You can go straight into the muscle. You can go into the under the fat. It takes like 3 seconds to administer an injection. And so it's like brushing your teeth. It's less than brushing your teeth. Like it is literally a couple second deal. And
I
once
recently
you've done
learned.
that, it becomes very normal and easy to do. Right. And then if you get the effects of that, that's amazing. All of a sudden, so for like a standard thing for a healing protocol for yourself, I won't ask your age, but I would say you're probably over 30, right?
We'll go with that.
Yeah,
Stop
so
right
30,
there.
35 plus, our growth hormone, typically starts to decline, right? I talked about elastin, that starts kicking, starts degrading in our 30s. GHK, same thing, 35, that starts degrading. Again, that's why we have these effects of aging. So I would mix with that. I would go, all right, let's do this BPC, TB, GHK, like cellular recovery protocol. One, that's going to make it like hard if you're training to like get sore. Like you're going to feel like your recovery from everything is just going to be better. But then we would also layer in, we'd pulse the ghrelin receptor and the hypothalamus for 2 different pulses to release our natural human growth hormone, which is then turns into IGF in the liver and goes out to, and that is the most power recovery compound in our body is IGF, better than the BPC. So it's going to work there, but it's going to work through the whole body. So again, that's going to help your hair, skin, nails, all that. We'd want to make sure that we have some substrate material. So I'd probably have some collagen peptides, or my preference would be some glycine like before bed, because typically, again, if we're 35 plus, that calcification of the pituitary, that reduction in growth hormone has led to some dysregulation of the circadian rhythm. So improving that is going to be a good thing. So the CJC 1295 and ipamorelin are the 2 different compounds. I didn't talk about those that hit both of those receptors and release that. That's going to immediately have an impact on improving your quality of sleep. You're going to get deeper, more restorative sleep like week 1. You're going to feel amazing. We would take that before bed so we get that growth hormone pulse right at that time that our natural body. We always want to align things that affect hormones to our natural circadian rhythm. Big thing. I could get into TRT and all the mistakes people make there. But if you get it back to your natural rhythms, it is massive. So we would do that and then maybe have some glycine and some magnesium L-threonate before bed. Again, going to further restore that, but supply that substrate material. Beneficial also being later and maybe having some stress and other stuff. You mentioned some adrenal fatigue before. Like glycine is some of the raw materials that the GHK and the IGF are going to use for that collagen, the elastin, but it's also going to be that master antioxidant for glutathione and reducing the oxidative burden that is in our body, which that gets into a whole new set
Feel
of
like
peptides that
oxidative
are
stress
just like
is,
crazy when
yeah.
it comes to that. We could
I
go.
think that's truly the key to premature aging is the antioxidant side or the free radicals really, that are kind of roaming around the body. Quick question, you mentioned the collagen peptides. I've heard about that. I've known people have taken shakes or put them in their coffee or whatever, rubbed them on their face. I'm curious about, is this something, why do we have to inject it? Is it something we can get from our food? And I've heard some rumors that there's going to be an oral source. And then other people say, well, that's not going to be as good because it's not administered in the way that it gets directly to the cells. So I'm curious about that because I think there
Yeah.
is a lot of confusion. I mean, you can go to Costco and buy the collagen peptide,
Yep.
dump this in your shake stuff.
Yeah, and you don't need it if it's in your diet, right? Now, we all know that because of food processing and stuff, there's probably a reduction, but I don't want to like fearmonger with anything. Like nature provides at the end of the day. Do you need peptides?
Yeah, but nature's being like poisoned and crop
I
dusted and
know
all
that is
sorts
that
of
is that is an issue, right? But at the end of the day, like aligning the circadian rhythm, doing all this stuff that we can do resets for. Just to be clear, if I get sunlight in the morning, in the evening, right? If I touch the earth and have a grounding effect, if I eat whole foods that are in season, that sends signals to the cell to know what time it is. If it's during the winter and I make sure that I allow myself to get some cold exposure, like these are things that tell the cells to do things in the body and getting sleep. Like these, right? It's
melatonin,
all the
melanin.
basic stuff,
Mhm.
but we do have degradation in our society, right? Collagen peptides. I mean, it's literally like, the bone broth. I mean,
You're
it's
right.
in
The
if you
bone
have
broth, the
stew,
apple cider vinegar with
you
some
don't need
leather.
to have collagen peptides. Like
Right.
it's in the food, right? But if you're not eating that stuff, then I don't take collagen peptides. I eat a very whole food diet,
Yep, same.
and I don't add that in. I add some of the glycine before bed, which is the raw materials for the collagen production. And I like that. It's the antioxidants. So I add some extra into those things. But some people, we may want to add that in there if you don't have enough in the diet, let's say. Now, peptides, as far as oral and not, there are some that oral, like the BPC we talked about, it's derived in the gut. If it's bound to a certain salt, this one would be argonate salt, it'll bypass the pH of the gut and will be able to absorb and go systemically. Many still, the best efficacy is the injectable route with them, but there are certain ones that are oral form, but there's a number that aren't or sold as sold like they should be, and they just don't work. So that would have to go a case by case basis. But when you're talking about aging, like this is a really fascinating topic, and where peptides actually just got approved for neurodegenerative disease.
Like
Well,
MS and Alzheimer's and stuff?
no, this one was a BAMF syndrome,
Okay.
which is the others. Like it's always some rare one to start with, and then they'll start expanding, right?
Right.
But the mitochondrial decline, which is heightened by not getting some of the things that we talked about, grounding, exposure to EMFs, stress, like the aging process happens faster. Simply, what happens is you start having leakage in this. It's basically a motor. It's a rotor that drives ATP. That's the output. That's our energy that everything in our body functions off of. It starts leaking. And so, one, it's not producing the full energy, which is an efficiency loss, but that leakage starts creating reactive oxygen species, which then drives up our oxidative load, which then becomes this circle that just gets worse and worse and worse. Because the more inflammation we have in the body, the more degradation of the mitochondria we have. This is why people that smoke a lot, have these exposures, they look really old because their cells have aged, they have reduced output. Now, when it comes to neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, BAMF syndrome being a rare one, a lot of this comes down to some of the same things that we see in disease production in humans, which is we've got either reduced metabolic output. We've got metabolic disease. Yeah. ATP production is an issue. Inflammation is an issue. We've got metabolic, issues, cellular metabolic issues in the brain. When we have that, what I was just talking about happen in that reduced ATP output, the brain has less to fuel on, and it's essentially starving. And that starvation leads to the neurodegenerative disease. I know a lot of research is going around plaque amyloids and things of that nature, but look into it. It's very clear they're also researching MOTS-c, SS31, I can never say the one. I won't even try.
I think they make them complicated on purpose.
Yeah. They're researching for all these, both metabolic disease, because they have an impact on diabetes, same thing. They're improving that cell metabolism, but they're improving that metabolism of the cell in the brain, which then affects the neurodegenerative disease. If we can reverse that, you're reversing, I'm not saying fixing disease, right? Just to be clear, but we're creating an environment less susceptible for disease propagation. Those three things that I just mentioned are essentially the foundations of these, all types of metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer. Like they're all outputs of this, and that is poor cellular health to begin with. And if we can clean that up, one, it's going to reduce effective aging. Like your energy is going to feel better. You're going to have less of the dips and valleys as you get older. You're going to look better. Like all these things happen. And
Well, I feel like they're naturally doing this in Japan because the Japanese are way younger than they are. You know what I mean?
they
As a
have the
society.
most advanced stem cell in the world. One of my
And
friends, Dr.
leave.
Adil Khan, is the one that has first one that brought some of their technology to the States. He's based in Dubai now with the Muse cells, which is really some fascinating stuff. But I interrupted you. But yeah, I've been to Japan. It's absolutely gorgeous. The people are gorgeous. The place is gorgeous. I think, but there's your environment, your culture. Like, what are the things that feed into this, right?
Seaweed.
What's that?
Seaweed.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of studies about, these sorts of things that they consume, but also I think the lifestyle that they live. I mean, they do have the lowest cancer rates. At least the last time I checked, they had the lowest rates of cancer in the world. So there's definitely something there. But I do think that, like, biotechnology wise, they are doing a tremendous amount of research on
They are
the
the
human
most
body,
advanced.
stem cells,
They are. So
bio.
one of the things that I mentioned, I was talking about the basics that provide, I missed human connection, right? So stress and human connection are two of the other pieces. If you think about all those things and you think about the Japanese culture, if you've been there, you realize how important all those things are. Whether it's seaweed or whatever it is, it's still whole foods from the environment. I take fucodian, which is a seaweed extract, but only an extract. Like if I was taking the raw, like that would be a bit better. It's not super available here.
Yeah, I do
But
it
my point
basically.
being, it's like, yeah, human connection, stress level, exposure to the, having whole foods, just that environment. I mean, think about like, sleeping on hardwood planks, less like technology in the home. Like there's a lot of all the things that we're talking about are more prevalent in that society, right? But you also still have to have modern care because we could go, hey, that's just, primal living. Let's go to a third world country. They're not living very long. Well, we've got dysentery, like, there's a balance, right? You still
Right.
like modern world does bring amazing technology and things, but yes, they are also leaders in the that cellular biology stem cell world. They are the absolute
Especially
leaders in that.
skincare, especially skincare. I mean, most of my skincare comes from Japan at this point. They're just doing fantastic work. So, what's one piece of advice that you would give people that might be, like, so confused by all of this? They're curious. Like, if you're just new to this world and you've heard a lot of stuff about people's faces falling off and their butts falling off or whatever, what would be your kind of like introductory advice?
My introductory advice is to do the legwork first. Don't be looking for the quick solution. I mentioned all the natural ways to improve the quality of your life. You don't need peptides, right? And I say that I sell peptides. I coach people on optimizing their health through peptides and supplementation and lifestyle adaptations. That is my world, but that's optimization. That's fine tuning. That's taking it to the next level. And so many people want to do this. I just heard Chris talking about this amazing thing. I want to go get that. It's going to fix my cellular health. And it's like, but I haven't taken the basic step of adding some whole foods to my diet because I don't
Right. I'm
like
still
greens.
compounding McDonald's on lunch.
I'm going to take that compound to improve my cellular health and I'm going to feel better. My energy is going to be better. So I'm going to just push it harder at work and still stay up later and not sleep because I'm going to recover a little better. You're taking advantage of it, not using it as it's needed to do. So take care of the basics first. Manage your sleep health. It is absolutely number one priority that you have control over, right?
I
So
agree.
those
I'm so big on my sleep. If I don't get 8 hours, I'm like, "That's it. I'm done. You're rude." I have to have my sleep. It is so imperative.
absolutely.
People say, "Oh, you're a grandma, you're going to bed." I'm like, "I don't care."
I don't care. Yeah, you have to prioritize yourself on some of these things. Like work will wait. Like these
Mhm,
things,
mhm.
you'll be better, you'll be more refreshed. Just do the basics. Now, once you've got that, then you can look at adding some of these other things in there. But don't be looking for the quick fix to clean up and fix what you're not doing elsewhere. Now, if you're doing those basic things and you want to optimize, I went through some really basic protocols. So the Glow protocol, if you're, let's say, 40 plus, probably running 12 weeks of that a couple times a year is going to be amazing restorative. Your joints are going to feel better, your skin, hair, they're going to be better. You're going to recover, you're going to be able to train harder during that period of time and get better results. If you're not doing manage your sleep and if you're not pushing against some resistance, like some physical exercise, that is the number one biohack in the world. I
Mhm,
cannot stand
mhm.
biohackers that won't weight train. Like it is like the number one biohack in the world.
Well, I have to tell you, I was like really big on I'm not a gym person, but I had a farm, right? And so I was constantly picking the chicken
Yep.
feed and doing kind of all that stuff. And now I
Yeah.
don't have that. And so I actually got a weighted vest. I got the stretch band, the resistance bands. I started doing Pilates, like just these little things that kind of push back. And I noticed a huge change in like my triceps staying like visible, all those kinds of things. But I agree. agree. Like, I think some women in particular, anyway, are not so much anymore, but intimidated by the gym environment or what are people thinking of me? What are the women thinking? What are the men gawking? All that kind of stuff.
Get a
So I
couple
feel like,
dumbbells or kettlebells for your home.
yep,
You can do some step ups, some lunges.
yeah.
You need to have this in your life. If it's 3 days a week for 30 minutes, like amazing.
Yeah, we moved
Get it
into a
in your life.
two-story house, and I was like, my first comment was, "Oh, good, my butt's gonna love this."
Yeah.
And so I
Don't
try
be
not
afraid
to
to
be
take the
lazy.
stairs instead of the
Up
escalator.
and
Like
down, up.
these are the basic, like, yes. So
It doesn't take much, and I think people forget that it's just we've become so sedentary, even getting yourself a desk that raises up and down so you can stand during the day, taking breaks and doing some stretch bands, stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be like a huge thing. Eat blueberries, major for antioxidants,
major, yes.
and Brazil nuts for women with the selenium, You've
I'm
got your
eating my Greek yogurt, raspberries, and grape nuts right now.
Yes, that's my go-to in the morning too. I love it. Yeah. I think that that's such great advice for people that might be curious. And then secondly, where do you recommend people go to learn about peptides that maybe are I'm ready for the next step, but there's so much different information and misinformation.
Yeah.
Where do I go to learn about these things?
Yeah. So I'll hit just two more really fast. So we talked about the growth hormone. That's another one. You'd want CJC without ipamorelin. It's cheaper, but also has a shorter pulse, which aligns with your circadian rhythm if you take in the evening. Combine that with ipamorelin. Let's say 5 days a week, 2 days off. You can run that as an anti-aging protocol. If you're 40, 45 plus, you will love it. Recovery's better, sleep's better. And then if you've got let's say some disease or premature aging due to stress, you're a hard driver, just reach out to me. Go to enhancedexecutive.com. Reach out to me. We'd want to run blood work and get more definitive about what it is. With everything, it's individual. I tried to give some base level things, but really need to understand your background and the effects that has had on your health to create that. Now, if free education, I'm starting to put out some science-based videos on my YouTube where I analyze the research and give you all that information. And I've got tons of free articles. If you go to enhancedexecutive.com or chrisduffin.com, it'll redirect you to click community at the top. You can join a free forum. Now, when you get there, I'll send you a DM going, hey, do you want to pay for the upgraded version 29? I don't care. Like, if you want all my movement videos, that's what's in there. You don't need that. All the articles on peptides in the forum with other members using them, all absolutely free as well. Try to provide that as a resource for people to help educate. And I'm really glad that I can post all this stuff publicly now, which I couldn't have done 10, 15 years ago. So it's absolutely tremendous, the change in the world.
Well, it's interesting being in this field because I come up against this too. Like, I have knowledge, I want to share it. I also need to make a living, So there's always this fine line between, giving back and sharing as much as possible, but then also offering a way for people to upgrade if they want to or continue. And I love that you have like, hey, here's some scientific stuff, all of kind of my knowledge that I've done. And if you want to work with me directly, or access some other areas for movement, it's a little bit more. I like that a lot, and I think it is a challenge because I know even for me when I'm going through certain things, I tend to be kind of a consumer and take and then not necessarily think about the person that put the effort to put that together and post that and what that took, so I like that.
Yeah. I've always operated in this manner. And what I've discovered is put everything out there. It literally doesn't matter. I've got 2,000 educational videos out there of 350 hours of lecture and movement content and, things on philosophy and, improving, how you approach life, everything. I just push it out there because if you do that, there's a certain set of people that want that. They don't want it. They don't have the time in their life to go through and figure out where all those things are and do the research. There's other people that want to, but they will pay you to come tell you what you have already put out for free. It doesn't matter. They want it curated just for them. All right, I need that put together just for me. Give it to me.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter that information is absolutely free and out there. And that's the way I operate. And so that's a big benefit for most people. I've got nearly 750,000 followers across different social platforms and all that. And I just push stuff out. I don't care because I'm not trying to hide or gatekeep anything. It doesn't affect my income side of things because the people that need that help are going to reach out. Now,
Oh, that's exhausting. I'll tell you, I'm around 50 among all, and I went off. I did a social media detox end of December, and I'm not going back on in the same way when I come back in the first quarter or second quarter. It's a lot. It's a lot to be
yeah, I
showing up
actually
like
don't
that.
post on social media or really interact on it anymore. Actually, as of like November, December, I'm just focusing on my YouTube and creating the long
That's
form
me
content
too. That's I've
because I
almost
did
pivoted to YouTube exclusively. Yeah.
I'm just exclusively doing that. So
Yep.
I direct people to YouTube or my forum.
Hmm.
I've got all that existing stuff out there. People don't realize how much time goes into creating and
Yep.
managing like a 90-second video.
And then
Like
dealing with the
it's like
crap of
3
the
hours of
trolls. I don't
production and
want to. I
planning.
don't have the
It's so hard.
headspace. Yeah.
It's just, and then you got to be there to answer and do all that.
Answer and reply and engage and be vulnerable and transparent and blah, done. I've pivoted almost all the way over to YouTube as well, and it's great. It's great. Like, I can grab a short from this podcast and dump it on YouTube. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
So
good.
yeah, if you release this on YouTube, send me a collab, and if you do it on the Instagram, message me because I probably won't see it till like a week or two later. But message me so I can go accept it on the other. So yeah.
But yeah, you gave me some hope today that all the PT people that are saying you've got 3 more weeks until we send you for surgery, and I'm going, I'm not going for surgery. I'm going to recover just fine. So now you've given me some hope.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I hope to leave people with is empowering message. And I did that in my movement work. I do this and this. Like, you are empowered to take control of your life. I try to provide the tools and some education for you to do that, but you can do things that is basically impossible by the normal model. I've done it myself multiple times. I wasn't even released to train. I set the 4th highest record, ripped 2 heads of my pec off my arm. And this was 15 years ago.
So you
And
know what I'm
using,
talking about
yeah,
then. You know what
yes,
I mean about like putting on like washing your hair. Wow. Well, you're giving me some hope for sure. You guys, this is Chris Duffin, and he's got a website, enhancedexecutives.com. He talks about peptides. Obviously, he's walking the walk and not just talking the talk. So awesome to have you on. And folks, you can find him all over social media as well. Chris, is there anything else that you'd like to say before you go today?
I felt I've talked your and your audience's ears off. So if you let me go, I'll go for another half hour. So I'll
I
probably,
love it.
let's just call it.
Well, I'm sure that I'm going to have you back on because I'm going to process all this and have about 1 billion more questions next time we get together.
I love it. It was a great interview. So please do.
All right. You take care. The views expressed in this podcast aren't necessarily those of the Sky Talk Doc. They're here to challenge your thinking and inspire growth. Until next time, blue skies and tailwinds.